Good morning. Are we here? The yes is too faint. Are we here today? Thank you so much. Distinguished guests, our partners from the Southern African Trust who are watching us online, or our online audience, community leaders, members of the press, and fellow Malawians. As she has lightly put it, my name is Linda Ndovijere, and I'm the board chair of the Gender and Justice Unit. Today, on 3 December 2025, we have gathered here for this year's 16 days of activism in a moment of global significance. Malawi, together with the rest of the world, is commemorating the United Nations International Day of Persons with Disabilities. This year's observance reminds us that the fight against gender-based violence must always include the fight for accessibility, inclusion, and justice for persons with disabilities, especially women and girls whose intersecting identities place them at a heightened risk and harm. As GJU and the Southern African Trust co-hosting this Pabwalo engagement, we do so under the sub-theme Inclusive Digital Safety, Accountability, and Justice for Women and Girls. This theme aligns with the global 2025 campaign, United to End Digital Violence Against All Women and Girls. These combined themes reflect a truth we cannot ignore. Digital violence does not affect all women equally. Women and girls with disabilities, women living in poverty, rural women, adolescent girls, LGBTQI+, persons and other marginalized groups, they face compounded vulnerabilities, both offline, online and offline. Technology-facilitated GBV often intersects with discrimination based on disability, health status, age, or socioeconomic position, resulting in unique forms of exclusion, silencing, and harm. This year's Pabwalo establishes a national platform for dialogue, reflection, and accountability on technology-facilitated gender-based violence by situating Malawi within the broader global effort to eradicate digital harm. This engagement highlights the urgency of safeguarding women's rights, promoting gender equality, and ensuring that digital spaces are safe, accessible, and inclusive for all. Last year, during the 16 days national webinar, we began a critical national conversation on TFGBV, or what we are calling digital gender-based violence. Legal empowerment tools and the need for stronger institutions to protect survivors were discussed at that forum. But today, we are deepening this conversation, bringing it closer to the community, to the duty bearers, and to those whose voices are often left unspoken. Our strategic plan commits us to feminist legal empowerment, innovation, and inclusion, and the 2025 Pabwalo, co-hosted with the Southern African Trust, embodies all of these. What does digital violence look like in Malawi? Before we talk about solutions, let's discuss what digital gender-based violence looks like. One, it looks like non-consensual sharing of intimate images, including leaked news, threats to publish private photos, and also distribution of intimate content without permission. It also looks like sextortion and digital blackmail, coercing to send money to meet someone or to comply with demands to prevent the release of private content. online harassment and cyberbullying, sexualized insults, body shaming, misogynist attacks, and threats of physical or sexual harm. It also looks like impersonation and account takeover, hacked WhatsApp, hacked Facebook, fake profiles used to defame and identify theft. People will literally create a profile with your name, your number, and then by hacking it, and then interact as if it's you. It also looks like digital surveillance in intimate relationships, such as demands for passwords, phone checks, location tracking, and coercive control. It is also misinformation and character assassination, false screenshots, political disinformation, and humiliation campaigns. It is also an online economic scam targeting women, fraudulent job offers, titumizeni 25,000 muibeza ntchito, fake modeling or brand ambassadorship opportunities, basic exploitation. It is also electronic related online violence, intimidation, derogatory memes, targeted misinformation, harassment of women aspirants and activists. During the most recent election cycle, the GJU, through its gender desk that was supported by the Canadian fund, as part of the award-winning Chisanko Watch consortium, we handled about 11 real-time complaints, several of which involved digital intimidation and online harassment. In Malawi, these harms are intensified by factors such as limited digital literacy, stigma around reporting, gaps in institutional capacity, and patriarchal norms that normalize digital monitoring and control. What we need to remember is that whatever is happening online does not stay online. Digital violence affects the mental well-being, the physical safety, opportunities, leadership pathways, and women's confidence to participate in public life. I remember a certain colleague of ours telling us that when she was contesting, somebody actually told her, "Oh, we remember you dated so and so in primary school. Oh, we remember this and this issue happened." Just because a woman is contesting, people will bring up these issues to intimidate them. The Empower Line and the IVR, the tools that GJU is using for legal empowerment. Let me also take this opportunity to share this information to you. Last year, during the 2024 16 Days of Activism, GJU launched the Empower Line mobile app, a free confidential tool that provides legal information on various forms of GBV, including digital abuse. Have you downloaded it yet? Can I see hands in the room who have downloaded the app? Thank you. If you have not downloaded the app and you have a smartphone, please go to your app store and download the app. It is free to download. This year, we want Malawians to know that the app continues to exist, remains free, and is available on both Android and iPhone. Alongside the app, our IVR system remains essential for women without smartphones or internet. It provides legal guidance in local languages and ensures that even the most remote communities can access support when needed. The number is 4285. 4285, if you can write it down, share with your communities, 4285. That's the number of the IVR. So even in the rural areas, your communities can be able to access all these tools on that IVR line. These tools These two tools are central to our mandate of legal empowerment, which lies at the heart of the Gender and Justice Unit strategic plan for 2024 to 2028. Why are we doing the Pabwalo? Why have we called you for the Pabwalo? And why are the audience out there watching us today as we are doing Pabwalo? We are here today, Pabwalo, a traditional community-rooted forum where people speak openly. This is a safe space. Debate honestly and hold duty bearers to account. Digital violence, it thrives in silence, rights, online and offline. I welcome you to today's Pabwalo. I urge you to be free to ask any question that you want. As I have lightly put it, this is a safe space where we are holding our duty bearers accountable to the issues that affect all of us. It is the statistics until it affects you, it affects your daughter, it affects your aunt, it affects your sister, and it affects the ones close to you. Let's all be accountable. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
As already said, my name is Prudence, and I work with Confront Girl Child. And most of the work that I do mostly involves working with rural adolescent girls and young women. And today, I'd like to share not just cases, but the lived experiences of some of the young girls that I work with. Young girls, already their first experience with the digital space came without proper guidance and protection. And eventually, they went through abuse when you my digital platforms. Let me start with Paduma, an 18-year-old girl from Nyambi in Mangoshi. So Nyambi is one of my areas I look border. Anabanga border in Mozambique. So Paduma has a brother who is in South Africa. And so Paloma was using the smartphone for Facebook and WhatsApp without fully understanding digital literacy, the digital skills, and she was not able to recognize fake accounts or detect online groomers. So pa Facebook, ana join amagulazi mai towards you. So in one of the women groups, Nzimai Wina, anabanga advertised job in Mozambique. And Paduma saw the advertisement. And she took the number, she reached out to the woman on WhatsApp, anamba kucheza. Within days, Paduma was trafficked to Mozambique. Ananyamuga osauza wina aliyese kwao. Chifuka maoba, uraka banga konzati amuzo rusalani, usabide. And in Mozambique, Paduma was forced to work as a sex worker in one of the drinking joints. Mozambique go. So you can imagine a young girl who is 18 years old in a foreign country, frightened, alone, until Tsugulina anagumana ndi a man from Malawi, ndamana mtandiza, kumjotsa ku drinking joint kuja, ndikumbweletsa pa border pa Chibonde. And my officers ndamana mutenga, ndikumpiritsa kwao. Another story is about Aisha. Aisha and one of my self-space mentors are too. So from the little stipend which we give her, another saver nugula phone, smartphone. Anabanga download TikTok. Nde Aisha magonda nyimbo kumaso kuvina. So when she joined TikTok, anaona kuti people amabanga post my videos za kuvina. And so this other day she thought of posting a video of herself dancing behind her family's grass thatched house. And she went offline. Always overline mwana anabeza kuti strangers were mocking her.
People took it quite likely like a joke. but it happened, and this is something that severely impacted this girl's life. I don't remember seeing her socialize normally with anyone after that. I don't remember seeing her at anything that she was usually at, whether it was sports, her usual activities. And it was as simple as her sending something to someone she trusted, and that person breaching that trust and sending it to other people who had no concern for her well-being. And it basically ruined her life for that period of time. And she was young, and it happened to a lot of people in that environment where a lot of young girls had a lot of media and videos and pictures circulated, and it was normalized.
kuti nkhanza zimenezi zithe bakhale ma-platform amene azilimbikitsa so nawo anthu aulumali kutenga nawo gawo pa zinthu zambirimbiri zochitika pachani pa internet. Apart from that, amene aonekeredwa nkhanzawo azimayi atsikana kumene akupanga report panatchulidwa nambala imene pene akupanga report, it should be inclusive enough kutengera maulumali osiyanasiyana. Ena amafuna mwina kuyankhula mwina mwapambali sangathe kuyankhula pagulu maulumali ena ndezitengereso chani mbali imeneyo pali maulumali ena mwina otani kayankhulidwe nawonso mwatengera kuti pomwe muzipanga ripoti iko kuzikhaza kuti na it should be inclusive enough. Apart from that, amene akumanizidwa ndi nkhanza zimenezozo kuti afuna apange sika kuti komalizira kuti akumana ndi nkhanza zimenezozo, it should be inclusive enough kuti komwe adapite kokadandaulako akakhale malo amene angathe kuyankhula momasuka opanda ziphinjo zina zilizonse. Mwina zimene ndingayankhule zambiri ndi zimenezo zikomwambiri.
I'm just here to make a brief statement, but also to share my experience. I'm not sure if I'll be able to mix because my statement was written in English. I should miss out some things. I didn't want to freestyle, so I had to write it so that the authorities here and everyone else around here. So I stand here today as part of the Young Feminist Network, but also as a representative of women and young women in Malawi whose lives have been changed by technology facilitated gender-based violence. Several years ago, my phone number was leaked online without my consent. What followed was a wave of harassment, so relentless and dehumanizing, that I spilled beyond the screen and into my daily life. I was overwhelmed by the flood of sexualized messages, intimidating calls, and threats from strangers who treated my fear as entertainment. So, just a brief background, like I said, my number was shared without my consent with other 246 contacts over a game that was being played by young men. And from that, my number, I kept receiving sexualized images. Our numbers were circulating all over social media saying, atigana okuti mukufuna kuti ngati mukufuna kukhala ndi nice time ngati mukufuna mugone ndi anthu. This is the list. But I wasn't aware. This just happened because at that particular time, I was in the student union at school. Because I was the entertainment director, my number appeared on a lot of posters. So my number was taken from there and added on the list of names, which I really got a lot of backlash from my family, from my friends, from my then boyfriend, my relationship. So, yeah. So my experience is not unique. It reflects the lives of girls and young women across Malawi and students, activists, entrepreneurs, leaders who are violated online and left to navigate the trauma alone. Many face leaked images, stalking, blackmail, threats, and coordinated misogynistic attacks meant to push them out of public spaces. Many are too afraid to report. Many do not know where to go. Many try to seek help only to be turned away or told that online harassment issues are trivial. Online zita. Yet digital spaces are not optional for us. They are our classrooms, they are our workplaces, and platforms for leadership. When we are pushed out of them, something deeper is taken. Our right to safety, our right to dignity, and our right to participate equally in the society. During our 2025 elections, aspiring young women and women political candidates faced misogyny, political intimidation, and targeted abuse. Digital violence has become a tool to erase women from public life, and it somehow seems to be working. Today, I speak for every young woman and woman who have trembled while opening their phone, who have deleted their accounts to protect their sanity, who have prayed that their family never sees the messages they receive. Inenafika at a point yokuthi ndimafuna ndisinthe nambala, but I had been applying for jobs, and I was like, andibeza bwanji, because I had applied for so many jobs, and my number was there on my CVs. So this affected me a lot. We are not asking for sympathy, or should I say, I am not asking for sympathy, but I am asking for a system that works, institutions that respond, and a Malawi where digital rights are recognized as human rights. I am asking for accountability. That does not arrive only after irreparable harm has been done. Women deserve to exist online without fear. We deserve justice when we are harmed. And we deserve a Malawi where our visibility is not treated as an invitation for violence. I have a question to the authorities, but I'll keep this one for the panel discussion. Thank you.
MACRA, we are a regulator. And in terms of the ministry, I wouldn't want to talk what the ministry is doing about it, but I'll talk about what MACRA is doing about it, because one of the roles that we have as a regulator is sometimes to advise on policy direction, on policy issues that the ministry is supposed to consider. And MACRA currently, we have advised on several things, and to actually one of the things that we are trying so hard to pass on is the prioritization of cyber crimes. The need for Malawi to strengthen its posture when it comes to cyberspace, to enhance its cyber security posture, if I have to say it broadly. And when we are advocating for cyber security, it's not just based on gender. Gender is part of it, but we are also, strongly advising that we need to strengthen the posture when it comes to cyber security here in Malawi. And as MACRA, there are several things that we are doing. One of the first things that I would say that is very relevant to this conversation is that currently we have facilitated the review of the Electronic Transaction and Cybersecurity Act. This is the only act in Malawi that had provisions on cyber crimes. That's specifically cyber crimes. And when it comes to the topic that we're talking today on technology-facilitated gender-based violence, there are certain crimes that are there that are definitely applicable. There is cyber harassment, cyber stalking, there is cyber bullying, offensive communication that are provided for in that particular act. And there is also child pornography. That is also provided for. But if you look at what is happening currently right now, you will notice that a lot of things are happening and are not properly covered in this particular act. And currently, for the first time in Malawi, we have developed a bill called Cyber Crimes and E-Evidence Bill, which currently has been finalized and passed on to our ministry for onward transmission to Ministry of Justice, later on to Parliament. This one now has comprehensive provision. The whole act is about cyber crimes. And we have modeled it based on international law standards, the Malabo Convention, which is the cyber security convention for Africa. It has also been modeled on the Budapest Convention, which was, for the longest time, the most comprehensive international treaty. And currently, we are also trying to see if we can revise, because I don't know if you are aware, recently in 2024, the United Nations for the first time has passed a United Nations Cyber Crimes Convention, which is called the Hanoi Convention, which has just been opened for ratification, for signature. We missed it I think it happened in September. But we believe that MACRA, because it's still open for signatures until January, we are confident that as MACRA, as Malawi, we need to also be part of that conversation, because when we talk about cyber crimes, including the technology-facilitated gender-based violence, they are normally cross-border. And normally, when we talk about cross-border, the victim might be in Malawi, but the perpetrator can be anywhere. So because of these things, we believe that there's need for a lot of, at least harmonization with international standards, as well as collaboration, which are offered by us being part of these international conversations or part of these treaties. And again, the other thing, if you look at Section 97 of the Electronic Transaction and Cyber Security Act, it actually mandates MACRA to be doing a lot of public awareness when it comes to cyber security issues, whether it's the scope of cyber crimes, whether it being just how we can preventive measures, or where we can direct people to report when there are cyber crimes. So these are some of the things that we're doing, and recently we have done a lot of such awareness, and maybe some other people might also be aware, we normally have an annual event which is called Women in Cyber, and we normally have a theme centered on the things that are emerging at that particular time. This year we had it in August, and one of the things that we were tackling was gender-based violence facilitated by technology, especially in relation to elections, because we knew that there are certain people, especially women, who would be targeted during that time, especially those who are aspiring for different political positions. And we know that if you and me agree that if we are to go by what has happened in the last election, you will notice that it's not just the women aspirants who are being targeted, but we saw even the head of our MAC, who was a woman at some point, being a lot of harassed and other things. So these are some of the things. We were actually targeting officials like that during those were one of the themes during our Women in Cyber, but we also partnered with other organizations as well, including Oxfam and African Union, targeting women aspirants. So these are just some of the things that we are doing. So we are doing a lot of collaboration as partnering with other stakeholders in this fight. We are also doing, trying to enhance the legal and regulatory framework by facilitating the review and the passing of the new Cyber Crimes and E-Evidence Bill. But at the same time, we are also doing a lot of awareness and training from the judiciary, law enforcement. When it comes to these things, it's not just general. Normally, it's about all cyber crimes, including these technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for elaborating what MACRA is doing. And that also, I think you started tackling my second question, which was basically on the September 2025 general elections, to say what have we learned and how can this inform stronger national protection mechanisms. I think you've already started talking to say you were indeed collaborating with others to make sure that the space is safe for women, including the head herself of MAC. And so maybe just highlight the commitment that MACRA going forward with the lessons that we have learned. What are the commitments that MACRA is making that as a duty bearer we can hold MACRA accountable?
Thank you so much. As a duty bearer for cyber awareness, as MACRA, we still commit that we shall continue to enhance public awareness on various issues, especially those that are emerging. And the other thing that we are also committing, we always commit to collaborate with all relevant stakeholders and those that are interested. And we also commit that we shall push and we shall, as much as possible, the passing of the bills that I've just mentioned. And I think the other thing that I think I also need to highlight before I sign off is that we also need to understand that when it comes to cybercrime, enforcement part is not really for MACRA, it's still the police. So if you notice, a lot of times when it comes to these issues, we still work a lot with the cyber unit within the police, I wanted to say within the police, okay. But we are working a lot, and the way we are working, I don't know if you are aware, as MACRA, we also host the national SET, which is the Computer Emergency and Response Team. As a SET, generally, it's responsible for protecting Malawi's most critical networks, but it also assists, because currently it's the only one in Malawi, it also assists in some of the crimes. The good thing about this national SET is that it collaborates a lot with international organizations like the FIRST, Interpol, and others. And when something happens, sometimes they are able to assist because they have all the connections. Currently, this is one of the units at MACRA that is heavily involved in cybersecurity, especially on enforcement part. And one of the things that they are mainly doing is to train police. Even as I'm talking right now, we have the police attached to our national SET, especially, you know, with cyber crimes. What is heavily important, which we have been lacking, is how we collect, store, or process electronic evidence. So it's about forensic. So this is one area where MACRA we are doing very well. And we are also currently in a project called, we are building a forensic lab for the police to actually assist in analyzing, collecting, and storing such evidence, because it will also, the collection, how we process, and how we have expertise is very critical if you have to internationally collaborate with other countries. We need to have a harmonized way, certain minimum standards that everybody has to follow internationally if we had to collaborate with others. So these are some of the things that we are also doing at MACRA in response to that question. Yeah.
Thank you. To say that the Commission, through its Economic, Social, Cultural Rights Directorate, does a lot of investigation on land issues, especially those that are reported to us. So we have dealt some land matters, disputes. We've also worked with the Ministry of Lands and others on some cases. But on this specific one, if it was reported to us, I'm not very sure from the person who was questioning. Just to also add that I think as a country, through the Ministry of Gender, there's now the new law on persons. We normally call them elderly persons, but the law has changed the language. The terminology now is older persons. So the Older Persons Act really has got provisions that are also aimed at protecting older persons, elderly abuse, and also any other exploitation that takes place. So perhaps now with this new law, again, as it has been in this audience this morning and now this afternoon, the issues are to do with, you know, raising awareness, making sure that people know about that law, but also making sure that our law enforcement can use that law to protect older persons. So as a commission, when we receive such matters, we are able to investigate, because we've also just recently, this last month, championed the national response plan on how we can tackle issues like that, particularly elderly abuse. So just to give you that heads up that the Commission is well aware, the Commission is actively engaging on these issues, but we are also working with the Ministry of Gender as well as the police on such matters if they are reported to us.
Of abuse are criminalized and also prosecuted. And also the ministry has developed some standards on, and also guidelines on technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And Pillar 2 is on service delivery and also survivor support. And on this pillar, the ministry trained the frontline service providers. These include police, health workers, social workers, helpline staff to identify and also document and respond to technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And also the ministry ensures that GBV has got referral pathways and also survivors are protected. And also there are helplines and there are also shelters. And there is also pillar number 3 on community and the prevention structures. And on this pillar, the third pillar, the ministry conducts awareness campaigns. And the ministry is lead in national and also district or even community digital safety, online concepts and prevention of image-based abuse. There are also committees at community level, which are also led by the ministry. And also the youth, the ministry involves the youth and the schools, and it partners with the Ministry of Education to integrate digital citizenship on TFGBV prevention into curricula. For example, the ministry is working with UN Women and the Ministry of Education on a project which is known as Malawi Girls Can Code 2. And this project is being implemented in 3 districts, Balaka, Lowa, and also Mzimba.
Mwina mwachidule tangofotokozani muchichewa pang'ono kuti kodi unduna wanu wa gender ukuchitapo chani kuthana ndi nkhanza zimenezi.
Zikomo kwambiri moderator, komanso maulemu aperekedwe kuyenera kuperekedwako. Ngati unduna wa gender uli ndi ntchito yayikulu kuyang'anitsitsa kuonetsetsa kuti nkhani za nkhanza zodzera pa intaneti zikuthetsedwa. Ndipo nkhanza zimenezi pali njira 4 zimene boma likuonetsetsa kuti nkhanza zimenezi zisachitike. Nkhanza yoyamba ndikuonetsetsa kuti malamulo komanso ndondomeko zosiyanasiyana zimene zimayendetsa ntchito zoona kuti pasakhale nkhanza pakati pa mayi ndi abambo, nkhani zimenezi zikuyikidwamo. Mwachitsanzo pali ndondomeko imene imaona zonse nkhani za gender, imene pachizungu timati National Gender Policy. Ndondomeko imeneyi ili ndi gawo limene limaona za nkhani za nkhanza zogonana komanso nkhanza zonse zimene zimachitika mu dziko muno. Komanso tili ndi ndondomeko imene imaona kathetsedwe ka nkhanza imene inalembedwa mu 2016. Ndondomeko imeneyi akuyilembanso akuyiunikanso, ndiye pamene akuyiunikanso tidzaonetsetsa kuti nkhani za nkhanza zodzera pa intaneti zidzalongosoledwemo. Komanso unduna umaonetsetsa kuti pamene ntchito zimenezi zothetsa nkhanza zodzera mu intaneti tikuzionetsetsa paufunika kuti Ministry of Gender iphunzitse anthu amene amagwira ntchito imeneyi pa nkhani yakathetsedwe ka nkhanza zodzera pa intaneti. Komanso Ministry of Gender ndi imenenso imaonetsetsa kuti mauthenga osiyanasiyana awupita kuma community kapena kuti m'madera mwathumu kuti nkhani zimenezi anthu azidziwe. Komanso Ministry of Gender imaonetsetsa kuti achinyamata akutengapo mbali pa nkhani za nkhanza zochitika kudzera pa intaneti. Komabe ndingonenaponso kuti ngakhale pali malamulo amenewa, I can also say that there are gaps in implementing of these policies and frameworks. So the first gap is that...
I think I will ask you to talk about the gaps later.
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
I'm really so sad that I couldn't be there. This is exactly the kind of gathering that makes my heart just sing. I'm so grateful for the openness that all of you approached this session with, to our duty bearers who have allowed us to put them on the spot and to ask them really hard-hitting questions, including ourselves as the Gender and Justice Unit. You know, one speaker said, "We've been here, Pabwalo, 2 years ago. We've been here last year. What are we doing differently?" And we really take all of those comments very, very seriously. I think this time around, what's more powerful than the previous times when we've had this session is this element of the outcome statement. And so I really want to thank our partners from the Southern African Trust who brought in this element, which is going to force us not only to follow up within Malawi on what's happening, but it's going to create a space for regional advocacy around the commitments that were made here today. So I want to start by promising that these commitments, this is not just another empty piece of paper. This is a roadmap for exactly the collaboration, the commitment, the partnership that has been talked about. I think the police said it well when they said we can't do any of this on our own. And that's true for us as well as the Gender and Justice Unit. Surely even today's event, we could never have done this on our own. We couldn't have done it without your involvement, without the incredible community voices that started this off by grounding us in the realities of what people are facing. Digital-based violences, digital harms are real. We're not talking about something that's just academic. Every single one of us is aware of or knows a story or shared a story of an extreme experience of violence, pushing people offline, pushing people away from public space, pushing people out of their lives, young girls running away from home, being kidnapped. In fact, we see that there's a quick transition between online violence to offline violence. And I think today we heard about some of those harms and how real they are. I also love that we had some real statements shared about where we can go and how we can follow up on getting assistance and on getting help, and who are some of the office bearers who are supposed to do something about this, and what some of the services there are available for, like following up and investigating, forensic evidence collection, things that we might not have thought about before we would join together today. So I really am grateful to all of you. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I'm hopeful and thankful for Sylvia for doing the translation, that after this outcome statement, perhaps she can make sure to go through it again, just so that these promises are clear as well in the vernacular. Because it's not only those of us who are in the room who are following in GJU. Like, one of those questions came from people who are online in the webinar with me, but we're also live streaming. So we're really reaching out to so many people today, and that's incredible. And I love that we're able to do so in both English and the vernacular. So our panel today brought together representatives from the Malawi Police Services, the Ministry of Gender, the Malawi Law Society, NGO GCN, Malawi Human Rights Commission, and MACRA to assess the gaps, the opportunities, and commitments in tackling technology-facilitated gender-based violence in Malawi. The discussion identified clear weaknesses across the justice system, service delivery, and community responses, but also established concrete steps to strengthen accountability and survivor protection. So these are some of the key findings just from today's session. That the legal and the justice sector has gaps. In Malawi, we have strong laws that address specifically technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And from MACRA, we're learning that there's even additional regulations that are coming out that should help strengthen perhaps our policing of violence that occurs in the online space. Our laws are rooted in the Constitution, the Gender Equality Act, the Electronic Transactions and Cybersecurity Act, but enforcement, we've seen, remains inconsistent. Survivors often do not know how to report, who to report to, or sometimes they don't do so due to stigma or poor case handling. Professional ethics for lawyers are outdated, is something that was shared with us by our friend from the Malawi Law Society. And the Malawi Law Society needs to update its standards so that they reflect the digital spaces and the digital era that we're in. And while disciplinary measures exist, underreporting of professional misconduct persists. So we have resource limitations, especially within the Human Rights Commission, for example, and these restrict the reach of services. So Malawi still lacks as well, on top of everything else, a specific hate crime law. We also learned about survivor experiences and mental health. Survivors face extreme psychological harm when their private images or information are leaked. Some also encounter discrimination or unethical behavior from service providers, including victim blaming and requests to view illicit materials. This creates a hostile environment that discourages reporting. In terms of digital literacy and inequality, we learned that there's low digital literacy across the country, especially amongst girls and young people. Young people are open and exposed to exploitation, to scams, and to trafficking because of this. We heard that members of the LGBT community face additional service gaps and discrimination that further limits their access to justice and tailored support. We talked as well today about elections and women's participation. Female political candidates face harassment and disinformation during the elections, and yet very few incidents were reported. Despite women constituting the majority of the voters, they remain drastically underrepresented amongst elected officials. Some collaborative efforts with MEC and partners took place, but the overall environment still undermines women's public participation. In terms of innovation and accountability, today's discussion showed us that Malawi needs clearer, simple reporting tools for survivors. We need stronger collaboration between NGOs, MACRA, Malawi Police Services, MLS, and the ministries, and that this is essential for coordinated case handling. Multi-agency task forces should be formalized. Digital literacy messaging must be translated into local languages to reach all communities. All technology-facilitated gender-based violence cases should involve NGOs, police, and legal actors from the very beginning. The ministries must help raise public awareness on consequences and also raise awareness of the reporting pathways that exist. And then at the community level, preventions and norm change. Our one-stop centers, our cybercrime units exist and offer vital referral pathways. However, community policing structures continue to raise awareness, but broader engagement is needed to shift harmful norms and improve the trust in institutions. So coming now to our stakeholders. The commitments from the stakeholders that we had in the room today. The Malawi Law Society has promised to provide legal clinic support, to support referrals, and to offer representation while strengthening ethical oversight within its own institution. NGO GCN has committed to engaging in advocacy, information sharing, and coordination across TFGB digital violence actors. The Malawi Human Rights Commission has committed to continuing investigating technology-facilitated gender-based violence cases and ensuring that decisions remain enforceable. The Ministry of Gender has committed to strengthening service delivery, addressing policy gaps, and updating frameworks for emerging digital issues. And finally, the Malawi Police Services have committed to remaining accessible to all survivors and ensuring that cybercrime handling and referrals function effectively. And our friends MACRA, who joined us at the end, have also committed to changing and ensuring a continued change of the legal frameworks that make it easier for us to go after technology-facilitated gender-based violence, to continuously work with partners in the space, and also to advocate for Malawi's involvement and uptake of international treaties relating to technology-facilitated gender-based violence and other forms of cyber crimes and cyber violence. So to conclude, Malawi has the legal foundations to curb technology-facilitated gender-based violence, but the system needs stronger enforcement, better survivor-centered practices, and more coordinated action. The commitments made by the state and the non-state actors today provide a practical roadmap for improving accountability, protecting survivors, and fostering safer digital and physical spaces for all Malawians. But before we close, I realized there that we didn't capture the commitment from the Gender and Justice Unit. The Gender and Justice Unit is committed to continuously providing spaces like this, the open Pabwalo space, creating the opportunity for us to engage with duty bearers and hold them to account, but also to hold ourselves to account for what we are doing as a community that is affected by technology-facilitated gender-based violence. The Gender and Justice Unit also commits to taking on the call by the Malawi Police Services today. The police officer said, bring us 3 cases. At the Gender and Justice Unit, we'll be making sure that we bring you more. Working with victims and survivors of all forms of violence, but especially technology-facilitated gender-based violence, to see that the courts are being used to respond to these new and emerging forms of harms. The Gender and Justice Unit finally also commits to continuously ensuring that there is widespread, legally, easily understood, simplified, translated legal information relating to all forms of violence against women and girls, and particularly also technology-facilitated gender-based violence. As Linda shared already, we have our app, Empowerline Malawi app, which has one entire section that's dedicated to digital violence. That information, including about how you can access a protection order, is available in the vernacular languages. Currently, we have 3 languages available on 4285. So when you call 4285, it's not only English that you have there. You have this information, legal information, simplified, specially available in Chitumbuka, Chiao, and Chichewa. This year, meaning 2026, we're going to be expanding that platform to give you more languages. So those are the commitments from the Gender and the Justice Unit. Please, our doors are always open. We look forward to continued collaboration and partnership with all of those who are in the room. We really, once again, want to thank the Southern African Trust for supporting us to put this activity together, and other partners such as Truckera and Irish Rule of Law International, whose support also made everyone's involvement today possible. Thank you again so much. It is so good to see you, and I hope to see you all in person soon. Zigongwambili.
And good afternoon to you all. I'm Chengetai Kanyangu, as I've been introduced, and I'm from the Southern Africa Trust. And just to let you know a little bit about the Southern Africa Trust before I go into the closing remarks, we are an organization that works across the SADC region, and we work to advance equality and try to ensure that all citizens of the region live within a space that has equal access to all forms of productive life and of positive living. So as representing the Southern Africa Trust, I'll also share that we also work around issues of economic justice. We also work around climate justice, but the pillar that has brought us together today is the gender justice pillar. So as I start my closing remarks, I first of all would like to acknowledge the stakeholders in the room, the Ministry of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, the Malawi Law Society, the Malawi Police Service, particularly the Cyber Crime Unit, which is very key to the conversations that we were having today, the Malawi Human Rights Commission, and the non-governmental organizations present today. I also want to acknowledge the representatives from the communities, because this is where all these issues actually take place. This is where the stories are told before they actually get to spaces where they can be dealt with, where response can be given. So I want to acknowledge those that have been representing the women's rights defenders, the young feminists, the girls and young women, the LGBT community, and female sex workers as well. But I want to also say that this event would not have been possible if the Southern Africa Trust had not come together with Troika and Irish Rule of Law International to make this meeting possible. But I just want to also acknowledge, and with so much deep gratitude, to the Gender Justice Unit for putting this together. Listening in, and I must apologize that I did not attend part of the meeting, but just listening into the sessions that I heard commitments. That's the key takeaway for me, where I heard the key stakeholders speak to the commitments that they are going to actually follow through around GBV, particularly the issue we are discussing today around technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And from our point of view as the Southern Africa Trust, we really each year try to promote such conversations because we believe that the work in ending gender-based violence is still very urgent and it is unfinished work. And we need to continue to convene like this and be able to continue the conversations and follow through the commitments made today. And in Malawi and across the SADC region, we already know and we have already been discussing about how the digital space has become a space of opportunity. But from what we are seeing in the region, it really has become a danger as well, particularly to our women and girls. And we already know the types of technology facilitated GBV that have been discussed today, and all these require us to be able to respond. And so, in solidarity with the commitments made today, as the Southern Africa Trust, we also commit to ensuring that the digital revolution becomes a force of liberation and not intimidation. Because what we see now is that instead of liberating and providing us with information, easy access to information and communication, we are seeing a lot of intimidation within the space. And as we work across the region, we also acknowledge that there is need to actually look at the issue from a human rights perspective, from a gender justice perspective, and also as a development priority for our region. And so the calls to strengthen legislation, we believe, are key. And as the trust, we continue to also commit to support work around strengthening legislation. We also are very aligned to the call to safer digital platforms, because we believe that this is the only way that women and young women can thrive within digital platforms and actually make the best of them for their own development. We also believe that there is no single institution that can actually end gender-based violence. And I think this is what the meeting today actually demonstrated, that it requires a joining of hands and minds to actually be able to collaborate between governments, between civil society, between the technological companies, between educators as well, men and boys, faith leaders and communities need to come together towards the cause of ending gender-based violence. And as we share our strategies and as we shared our commitments today, I just want to remind us all that we need to remember that survivors' voices should be at the center of any action that we take to fight gender-based violence. The voices of survivors should actually lead the thought process towards framing of legislation, towards framing of any response, even that can be made by the police, by the commissions, and by any other stakeholder who can advance the cause to end gender-based violence within the digital space. So as I close, I also just want to say that this is 16 days of activism, but I hope that these 16 days will ignite action during the 365 days ahead of us before we actually get to the 2026 16 days of activism. So between this year's 16 days and next year's 16 days, let's have 365 days of action to action the commitments that we have shared today. And we believe through that together we will be able to end gender-based violence in all its forms, and in particular digital violence, which we're talking about today, and build a better future for everyone. I really appreciate the collaboration that the Southern Africa Trust has had with the Gender Justice Unit, and I see that there's a lot of work that needs to be done through collaboration with such a key partner, and we are looking forward as the Trust to continue these conversations and be able to provide platforms such as these in the future to end gender-based violence. I thank you.